basically the comedy films. I went through my collection of DVDs and Blu-rays and picked out comedy films that I watched the most in my life. Be that I was watching the most as a kid, maybe I watch these movies once a year. They're just basically the comedy films that I've watched most times out of anything. Doesn't mean they're the greatest movies of all time, doesn't mean they're my favorite movies of all time, but it means the movies that I've watched the most. Now, the first one is the Little Rascals movie. This is the Blu-ray one of this. I watched this back on VHS when it first came out. I watched this on DVD. I remember going to school when this came out and everyone singing, doing the I Got a Dollar line. I was around the same age as all these kids, so this is like one of those ones that I continuously watched. I even watched as a kid the shorts, when they aired them on TV again. But I always really loved the movie. The movie is, to me, always going to be one of my favorites. Another one was a Lucy film, Lucille Ball movie that I really love. There's two Lucy movies in this one, but this one I probably watched even more than the other one I'm going to show. This is Yours, Mine, and Ours. I've always loved this one. Hopefully there ends up being a Blu-ray of this. I'm thinking that maybe Olive Films will release it since they own a lot of the MGM catalog titles. Hoping that there's a Blu-ray, like I said. Always love this. This is the one with Lucy and, Henry Fonda, and they kind of meet each other, and they both have a whole bunch of kids, and they get together, and it becomes this huge household of all these kind of things. And I always love this stuff when they first move in and they have that color-coded system. Something about this movie, it's like one of those ones, like a lot of these ones, you could watch it and immediately right after go and watch it again. Another one I love was the Ladybugs movie, the Rodney Dangerfield movie, Jonathan Brandis movie. Ladybugs, when he coaches the girls' team and Jonathan Brandis ends up dressing like a girl to try and help out Rodney Dangerfield. This is, like I said, I cannot... These ones, I can tell you, just like going through it, it was just making me feel like watching them again. Damon Wayans' film, Blank Man, which was like a spoof film, superhero spoof movie. I love this one. I like this one more than I like actual superhero movies sometimes. Both of these ones have been watched a million times. Definitely need Blu-ray releases of these. Like I said, a lot of these are only on DVD. But this is the John Ritter films, The Prom Child, 1 and 2. There was a third one as well. I think in the UK release they had the third one, and it had only one or two people came back for that. Didn't really love that one. I watched it on TV once. I only ever saw that once. But both of these have been watched millions of times. Probably actually watched the second one a little bit more. The next one is a Natasha Lyonne, Cleo Duvall film, But I'm a Cheerleader. I've watched this so many times. Always loved, too, the kid that plays Rufio was in this movie. So I don't know, this is like one of my top favorite movies of all time. Just really love the humor of this movie. It's a really, really good movie. John Candy film, Summer Rental. This I've watched so many times. When I always think of kind of vacation and like going on trips to the ocean, the beach and things like that, this is the one I always think of, with him and his family going there and having all kinds of issues, getting in the wrong place, staying in the wrong place. The issues with the lobsters was one of my favorite scenes when he goes there and they take the lobsters from under him, and he gets in this huge thing about the guy taking his last lobsters because he's waiting in line all this time for it. It's amazing how many of these are not on Blu-ray. This one is a Jamie Lee Curtis film that I've watched a million times as well. House Arrest, when the kid, Jamie Lee Curtis and her husband are getting separated, so the kids end up staging this whole thing where they lock them in the basement, and then lock some of their friends' parents in the basement as well. They're having kind of issues with each other and kind of basically trying to force them to work out their problems so they don't end up getting divorced. This is another one. I love watching this. This is ever on TV. I always watch this. I obsessively love this movie. And it's Krippendorf's Tribe, with Richard Dreyfuss and Jenna Elfman. And I feel like, Jenna Elfman, like when I think of her, I always just think of her from this. Like, I know she's in some TV shows and things like that, but I always liked, like, from this. It's like this is the one thing. And this is Krippendorf's Tribe, when it's, Richard Dreyfuss, whose wife recently died a year or two back. They were working together on doing documentaries on tribes and things like that, and he ended up spending all the money that he was going to use to do the next documentary on the family and buying things. So then he has to present his findings for the newest documentary. He ends up making a thing up and saying that he found them, and he has to make his kids play along and act like they're a tribe and make all these fake footage and things like that. Love this movie. The Kids in the Hall film, Kids in the Hall Brain Candy. Such a fun movie. My favorite of all the Kids in the Hall thing about them inventing this drug, and it's basically like a happy pill, but the drug ends up putting everybody in these weird states and things like that. Really cool movie. Another one I've watched a million times is Blast from the Past with Brendan Fraser, who his family goes down to a fallout shelter and locks himself away down there because they think the atomic bomb is coming. Of course, they were wrong about it, so they're down there 30 years. They have no contact with above. They come out, and Brendan Fraser has never seen the real world, and it's just kind of him coming out. Another one that's out of print, one of my favorites, needs a Blu-ray or even a widescreen release. Amazing film, one of my favorite Phoebe Cates films, Drop Dead Fred, which, Phoebe Cates, who has an imaginary friend, and it's Drop Dead Fred. This is like one of those things I could watch again and again. The music in this movie is amazing. Everything about this movie is great, and it's just like totally a childhood movie of mine. Can't tell you how much I like this one. Now, this one, out of the Ninja Turtles movies, it was the one that I watched the most. It was not the first one. As a kid, I was scared shitless for the first one. For some reason, I had this terrible fear of it. Did not like watching it. Never actually even saw it till I was probably like 16 or 17 years later. But the one that I watched all the time was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: The Secret of the Ooze. That one I really loved. Another one, Owen, the unsalted nuts make me choke. Get out of my way, and all that kind of stuff, throw them off from the train, the Danny DeVito movie. I don't know, I always loved that movie. Heavyweights, the Disney film, because I was always the fat kid, and there was not really very many positive movies about fat kids, at least to me. I never found many of them. I always sort of dreamed that I could have been in this certain movie, and it's, the kids that go to fat camp, and, it's Ben Stiller's character comes over there and takes over the camp and kind of turns it to shit and is really abusive to them and terrible, and the whole camp is going to pot, and that's basically what it is. Now this one, out of the Home Alone movies, the one that I watched the most, for some reason, is Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. I don't know why, because the first one's a better movie as a movie, and the second one's kind of the same story, but all in New York. But for some reason, Part 2 is the one that I watched the most and really have the most fun watching. And I just like really love that one. And they're actually having Home Alone 2 in theaters, Home Alone 1 in theaters again, like for like two different nights. The other one is the Farley Brothers film, the most watched of all of them, Kingpin. I'm not even a bowler or anything like that, but I just love this movie. Can't tell you how many times I've watched this. This is another one that I watched ever since I was a little kid. I wasn't even old enough to actually see it. I don't think my parents even knew it was rated R, so I saw this when I was probably like 5 years old on VHS, and it was, National Lampoon's Vacation. The new one has nothing against it, can hold no candles to this one. If you haven't even seen this one, and you're going, oh, watch the new one, watch this one. National Lampoon's Vacation, amazing movie about the, going to Wally World and the whole adventure and all the problems that go along the way of getting there. Now, the two Ernest films that I've watched the most, and this one isn't open because I had that double pack thing that had them together, but I rebought it again because I wanted them in their own cases, and this is Ernest Goes to Camp, which is probably the most watched of all the Ernests. But Ernest Goes to Jail, I don't know, it may even be more. Him going to jail, like every time I think of jail, and like my whole thoughts of jail, especially because I watched this as a kid, was Ernest Goes to Jail. I always kind of feel like that's what it would be like. Even though I know it isn't, when I think of it, I think of this. Now, this is one movie, too. I love this movie. I know it's not the greatest movie of all time, but ever since this first came out in 2002, I watched it on, on DVD a million times. This is the Frankie Muniz film, Big Fat Liar. I feel like this is like one of the last of like these kind of kids films. Like, they don't make them that much like this anymore. I feel like this was kind of like the tail end of kids films done like this, to this 90s kind of feel to them still. The one Pauly Shore movie that I've watched a million times is Biodome. Always sort of had a secret dream of actually getting locked in the Biodome. I don't know why, but like I always have. Like that's like always, like I always love this. I remember when I was in school too, and I saw like a pamphlet or something like that, Scholastic News or something, showing the real Biodome. And there's actually some other movies that they filmed in the Biodome as well. But love that movie. I know, like I said, I know it's not a great movie, but I love it. The first, Beetlejuice, hey, Winona. I love Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice, I cannot wait to the sequel. I actually really hope it ends up actually happening and it actually becomes a reality, as I watch this movie so many times. I remember as a kid, I had like a weird bootleg tape of it, and then I had, had the real one as well, but I always remember watching up that bad bootleg. And the other one of my favorite movies of all time, and really looking forward to seeing for Netflix, the Pee-wee's Great Holiday, or the Holiday Adventure. This Pee-wee's Big Adventure, one of my all-time favorite movies of Pee-wee's bike getting stolen and the adventure of him trying to find it. This is something that I could watch and then watch again immediately right after. Another one, some people don't like this movie, but I saw this movie when it first came out in 2004. I think like 2 months or so before it came to theaters. I saw this really early screening, and I remember I used to actually post on the message board for this movie, or a weird little chat thing for this movie, and I was on there like every night talking to people. I always wondered what happened to all those people, but it was the Napoleon Dynamite. I don't know, I just always really loved this movie. I love Jared Hess's movie. Hopefully Masterminds at some point actually can come out, because the company that was putting it out is having all kinds of financial problems, and he has a new one I think coming out soon as well. Another one that I've watched a million times is Blank Check. When you think about it, though, now if he had a check and put him for $1 million, he really wouldn't get that much. But like even back then, I don't think he would, because he was kind of the amount of stuff that he was buying. But it's basically a kid that gets hit by a car. His bike gets ruined, and this guy gives him a check. He's this criminal, and he ends up writing it for all this money and going on these crazy adventures with the money and buying all this crap with it. I don't know. I always loved that movie. This is one of my favorite. Everyone loves House Party, but when I think of Kid and Play, I think of Class Act. This is another one. This is a Burn on Demand release. Maybe sometime they'll do a archive Blu-ray of this, but it's about these two kids that end up getting switched around, and they think that the one kid is the other kid, and then they have to go through all this crap in school. This is Kid and Play's Class Act. Amazing movie. I love this movie so much. Pauly Shore has a funny little weird cameo in this, and the stuff at the Wax Museum. When I think of that Wax Museum, I always think of the Monsters' Revenge in the Wax Museum. I don't know why. I've always done that. The other John Candy movie that I love is The Great Outdoors. It was kind of like, sort of like another trip movie like Sorrento. This is with him going out to the woods, and Dan Aykroyd's character ends up coming in there and kind of ruining his trip, and kind of condescending everything he says, and giving him crap about hot dogs and saying you need to eat lobsters and all that. I don't know. This is a really great, this one in Sorrento, if you haven't seen them, you've got to watch these. It's hard to believe, like I said, that these are not on Blu-ray. Dennis the Menace, I just watched this probably 3 weeks ago again. I always watch this movie. Especially love Christopher Lloyd in this movie. He was amazing. He's playing the homeless guy in it, like the creepiest homeless guy, in my opinion, in the world. And this is, Dennis the Menace. This is another favorite of mine. Keenan and Kel film Good Burger. I'm glad to see, too, that, they're talking again, and they did that new skit together, which I thought was great. I always love this movie. This is and like I said, I know it's not the greatest movie of all time. I remember seeing this when I saw this in theaters when I was in Florida, and I remember, I had, food poisoning from something. Something was, real sick that trip, but I always remember seeing this in theaters, and it kind of, brightened up the me being sick experience. Another one, I haven't watched this in years, but as a kid, I used to play this all the time, and especially the opening theme. I used to love playing that opening theme for this. This is Mom and Dad Save the World. Really pretty cool. It's, like I said, not a great movie, but as a kid, I loved it. This is another one. This is really out of print, and this is a movie with Sean Young and Tim Daly, Dr. Jekyll and Mrs Hyde. It's basically Dr. Jekyll becomes a woman through the experiments. I don't know what it is about this movie, but I absolutely love this movie more than you can imagine. This is one of my top favorite movies. There's something about this movie. I've always loved this movie. I love the music in this movie, the whole vibe of this movie. It feels sort of TV-ish of a movie, but I don't know. I really love this. Another Lucy movie that I watched so many times, especially as a kid, the amount of times that I watched this, I used to actually think I wanted a trailer because of this. Have a trailer and go on a trailer adventure. This is the long, long trailer. It's basically Lucy and Desi's characters, they've gotten married, and they end up wanting to kind of sell everything and get a trailer and go on this adventure, but of course it goes terribly wrong. Great movie. This movie is what I consider one of the worst movies of all time. I love it, and it's Pat the Movie. People hate this movie, but I love this movie. This one, people used to hate this movie, and now people like this movie. I've always loved this movie, and will always love this to the end of time, and another one, I'm crossing my fingers that Olive Films puts this out. Every time they do an announcement, I get the announcement email from them. I'm thinking, please have this on this list because it's an MGM title. I'm hoping so much. And this is, Clifford. Love this movie, about Martin Short playing this kid. And I remember, like, there's all this stuff about when they were trying to cast this movie, none of the big stars like Macaulay Culkin wanted to do this because they said the script was so strange. So then they just got Martin Short to do it. And it also has, like, written by J.D. Rock and Bobby Way Hayes. It's like, I don't know who actually wrote this movie. It's like these fake names. So I always wonder, like, who really made this movie? Because there's so many phony names in this. Because I don't think people were that positive about it. Now, though, it comes across as like a brilliant movie. But at the time, people really thought of it as a cringe fest. But it's really a good movie. This one, I love this movie. Some people didn't like this one because they didn't like it because Mr. Bean talked too much. I didn't mind Mr. Bean talking. And this is, Bean the movie. I have a Blu-ray of this one as well. Another one that I watch all the time is What About Bob? I think this is my favorite Bill Murray movie. For some reason, this is always the one that I love the most. Another one, too, that hopefully gets a Blu-ray release is Little Monsters. Got him, need him, got him, need him. And, with Howie Mandel. My favorite Howie Mandel thing he's ever done. And this is, Fred Savage, and Howie Mandel is a monster under the bed, and he takes Fred Savage to the monster world. And the scene with Boy is one of my favorite scenes in film history. I just love that whole scene down there with Brian. It won't matter soon because soon you and your friends are gonna be monsters anyway. I don't know, it's like that. I love that scene. Another one. I've always loved this movie. Have a number of copies of this movie. Have a poster of this movie, and this is Nothing But Trouble. Especially loved, I always forget his name, but he passed away recently. But he plays the one of the friends that goes with him, and he really hates it, like Soplatos and stuff like that. I don't know. I talks about the bat shit and stuff going. I don't know. I love that character. This is just such a great movie. People hate this movie, but it's such a good movie. This movie, I remember when I saw this in theaters. I went to this with this friend of mine. He's like, "Right, do you really like this movie? It seemed kind of adultish." I'm like, because I saw this as a kid. I think it was like, I don't know when this was, 95, or I don't remember exactly when this thing was, 98. But this was Fierce Creatures. I don't know. I love this movie. I love movies set in zoos. And this was just a really, really cool movie. About this Australian zoo. I think it was an Australian or British zoo. I can't remember for certain where it was set. But they go to this zoo and all these kind of problems that happen. And I don't know. I always like this movie. This is another one that I've watched so many times. This is Hansel and Gretel. This is the Canon Fairy Tales one. Another one I obsess about this. Always love Hansel and Gretel. Always want to see like a new Hansel and Gretel movie, but done like really good and like kind of weird like this. Because sometimes I don't know, some of the other ones that they did, like the Fairy Tale Theater one, wasn't as cool to me. As a kid, this is the one I used to always like to see, but I used to accidentally rent the other one a lot, and I was really disappointed because I was wishing I was watching this one. This one's actually an hour and 30 minutes. This is actually a feature. The other one's like 40 minutes. Another one, people hate this movie. I still don't see anything wrong with it. It's not really based on the game that much, really. But I always like this, and this is the Super Mario Brothers movie. And the last ones, and both of these have equally been watched the same amount of time for me. And I would say I really have. And this is, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. These are ones, my favorite time travel ones. I would have put Back to the Future, but I consider Back to the Future kind of science fiction-y more than comedy. But I love, so that would have been this list, but I don't know for sure if it would categorize with this or not. But let me know, guys, what are some of your most watched comedy movies below. Would love to hear what you guys, what some of yours are. And let me know what you guys thought of the ones that I picked. Anyway, though, guys, thanks again for watching and subscribing, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.